Hey everyone, here's the first example of the money flow example sets. So I'll start off with the New Zealand dollar group. As you guys can see, I've already ordered the pairs where New Zealand USD, New Zealand Swiss franc, New Zealand yen, New Zealand CAD, and here are the inversed ones for New Zealand, Euro New Zealand, Pound New Zealand, and Aussie New Zealand. So I've separated them nicely so there's less chance of confusion. So as I mentioned before, there's a little hack to how you can do this. Naveen has sort of shown it as well in his lessons. He used the brush here to draw a circle, so you would always be selecting more or less the same amount of data. Now what you can also do is, and I hope you can see this properly, but I've made the crosshair a very thick line, so it's very easy to see across all the different pairs. And it's also synced, obviously. You can see that I'm moving left to right, so it's synced across the whole group. So what I always like to do is I want to make sure I start off with the same amount of data, and then I just, on the first pair that I see, I start to look where do I see, you know, the latest trend, if I can find a trend, and that would be around here, right? So for this one, we would be, pardon my horrible drawing, but this would be obviously New Zealand weakness, so this is a -1. And I've drawn the line from here, so that's the 13th of March 2019 is from where I'll start, so that is around here. Here we're also clearly for sellers, so -1 again. Going to the next one. Same thing here, -1. Going to the next one around the 13th of March, that puts us there. Well, very clearly we are sellers here as well, right? So -1. So New Zealand is not doing very well. Going to the next one, which is inversed, finding the 13th of March. Well, obviously we are buyers here, but it's not too good for New Zealand. So -1, and then finally going to Pound New Zealand and Aussie New Zealand. I was going to say finally, like this is the last pair, but it isn't. There's still Aussie New Zealand after this. On the 13th, well, this one is tough. I would say this whole thing is one big range here. So this one, neutral. I'll make a small wave like that. Or let me just draw a 0. That's probably easier. And then we have Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, 13th of March, puts us right there. But you could argue, well, the closest buy would be there. But officially the line should be around here, obviously. But there's a good chance price is not going to come back and bounce on that. But that's another story. So again, -1. So where does this put us in total? And bear with me, I'm just going to do the sum as we go from one to the next. So -1, again -1, so that's a total of -2, total of -3, total of -4, total of -5, total of still -5, and a total of -6. So here we are with -6 for New Zealand. So New Zealand is not doing well at all. Is there a lot of correlation other than that in this group? I mean, it's a very clear week, right? But is there a lot of correlation otherwise in this group? I don't think so, because some of them are really having a really nice trend, such as Euro New Zealand, Aussie New Zealand, New Zealand CAD, and a little less on New Zealand yen, a little less on New Zealand Swiss franc, and then New Zealand USD is a little bit in between, has more flow than New Zealand yen, but a lot less than New Zealand CAD. So keep this stuff in mind as well as you do this exercise every day as you prepare for the markets, because it already puts you in sync for the rest of the session that you're going to trade. So also keep in mind, like, how good is that flow on each of these? Yeah, we can clearly see that New Zealand USD, New Zealand is weak, and on New Zealand yen, New Zealand is weak. But how good is that flow? That's something that you can first take forward to when you start to do the yen group, for instance, if we're talking about New Zealand yen, and then also for later on correlation for entry, which will obviously be covered later on. with more examples, and it's, if you haven't reached that lesson yet in the 4CB, it's a lesson later on, and I will be making some examples for that as well, but keep that in mind already as well. Okay, let's head to the next example.